The current minimum amount of captures in Super Mario Odyssey is 3, achieved 3 years after the game's release in a really interesting uphill battle against the game's never-ending need to make you use the capture mechanic. But that story has been thoroughly covered already. The story I'll be covering is the current world record, held by me. Now, you may think that with a run like this, completing it by itself would be a huge accomplishment. Which is true, but with all of its tricks, movement, and impossible feats, speedrunners never fail to take something hard and do it fast. Today, I'm going to show you how we do it. The unbelievable run that is, the 3 captures world record. Before the start of the run, there are some prerequisites you can do to ensure optimal time save. First, the most popular version for min caps is version 1.0 of the game, but this isn't actually the fastest version. There's a almost hidden version that's known as 1.1. Version 1.1 does a few things, patches glitches and adds Korean, but those don't matter to the speedrun. The trick it allows you to do is this. A ground pound clip in Cascade that is not present in earlier versions. This version difference saves 5 seconds over the normal movement in Cascade, but the problem is, version 1.1 is incredibly rare, with few ever produced and even less actually owned by speedrunners. The current world record is not done on this version, but it's only 5 seconds and creates some time save for future records. Daylight Savings Time Abuse, or DSTA for short, is a trick utilized by speedrunners to instantly grow a seed in Sand Kingdom that normally takes 20 minutes to grow. But with DSTA, we are able to set the time before the run, so that when we reach Sand Kingdom and plant the seed, the Switch's internal clock hits Daylight Savings Time, thus skipping forward from 2 AM to 3 AM instantly. Odyssey interprets this as a full hour passing and instantly grows the seed, allowing for an easy moon in the sand route. Now with all that out the way, we can get into the run. We start by setting up our DSTA, waiting for our offset, and beginning the world record run. We start like any normal run, rolling and grabbing Cappy. The first divergence from other runs is in Top Hat Tower. Of course we have to skip the frog capture. We do that by jumping up this ledge and performing a jump called Frogless. We do this quickly by performing a compact dive bounce, or CDB for short. A CDB is a not-so-simple 2-player technique used to gain height in situations like this. To put it simply, you do an action to get into the air like a vault or a triple jump. Then you send Cappy away, cap throw with Mario to do a fake throw, bring Cappy back, dive, and bounce into whatever you need after that, like a wall jump or another dive. This is the best way to quickly gain height in 2P, so we'll be using it a few times. After that, it's as simple as rolling through as fast as we can, jumping up to Topper, beating him, and we can move on to Cascade. All of Cascade is in an effort to skip the 3 Madame Brood captures. The first thing we do is make our way out of bounds with this surface clip. Then we jump over this painting, onto an invisible platform, and make our way over to the first moon, being the chest moon. Here we do our first moon clip, basically using the moon to push Mario out of bounds after we backflip and cap throw. This puts us back in the water where we can jump up to this ledge, do some more invisible platforming, to eventually make our way into the 2D section, hidden behind this rock, which we are barely able to squeeze through. The consequence of this is having to do the 2D section blind, but when you have it memorized, it's not too bad. And the second moon we get is the 2D moon. Next, we exit the 2D section. Now we have to set up the first CRC. By putting Cappy behind this rock, and going down to the start, lining up on this log, and performing the CRC stands for Cappy Return Cancel. At its basics, CRCs turn Cappy's vertical distance into horizontal distance, or in this case, horizontal to horizontal. But this is the only one in the run. Generally, a CRC is done by ground pounding Cappy into the void for a certain distance. Afterwards, you shake or press Y to bring him back. But if you're crouched in shaking, or press Y on the frame that he goes to return to you, he will actually teleport to wherever Mario's feet are facing. This can be chained to make Cappy reach almost anything, but mainly checkpoints. We'll do it a few times during this run, and they do get a bit complicated, so I'll explain them more then. After that, we just warp up and grab our third moon. Next, we roll down toward the next moon, where we can do a 1.0 only spin throw clip to get our 4th moon. Coming over to the bridge, we can jump off the edge to a part of this wall that just doesn't have any collision, and make our way towards the 1st moon as our 5th moon. From here, we globe and leave Cascade, having skipped all the captures in it. Sand Kingdom is home to the DSTA trick, being the first thing we do, followed by the quickest moons in town. We do some cool movement to the bird and grab the dune moon. After the archway moon is where we divert from the any % route, going over here to manip this bullet bill. Now we really need this checkpoint for later, so I make sure to grab it, along with the crate moon. Now we get to do the 2nd moon clip in the run. This time it's done with a 2p bounce instead of a backflip. Once we're out of bounds, we use it to get 2 quick moons and some coins for the rest of the run. Next we jump up to the side of the inverted pyramid and perform a trick known as IP skip, clipping through the seams of these 2 walls and scaling the pyramid from out of bounds to get up to Harriet, and we make easy work of her, grabbing the multi-moon as our last 3 moons needed to leave the kingdom. Now, the whole reason we have to get to Night Sand is to unlock this painting to Metro, but we don't actually need it right now, so we're just going to move on to the next kingdom, which is Wooded. Wooded Kingdom is probably the closest we get to an any % run, with 90% of it following the same route. We start by grabbing this rock, hitting this bunny, and while waiting for the moon to spawn, we get the rock moon. Next we go shopping and scale this tree without the uproot, which is actually faster in 2-player. Next we jump up to this nut and perform nut clip, the single most time-saving moon clip in this entire run. Luckily, it's not that hard. This gets us a moon out of bounds and lets us go up here for another moon. Making our way down, we actually skip the red maze moon because getting it captureless would be too slow. So we replace it with the piranha story moon, then getting this nut. After the story moon, we do flower road skip, a trick that saves 2 to 5 seconds. After another moon, we enter the tower. The first moon is easy enough to get, but the stretching your legs moon is meant to be impossible to reach without the uproot. But clearly they didn't think about 2-player, because if we use a CDB from earlier, we can just grab the moon, and this actually saves time. To end Wooded, we grab this nut around the corner and enter Flooded Pipes. In here we are able to do another 2p moon clip to save about 7 seconds. Finishing Wooded, we can move on to the next kingdom. Never mind. Guess we go back to Sand. Once we re-enter Sand, we warp to that checkpoint we got earlier. This puts us as close as we can to the painting, which we use now. This takes us to Metro Kingdom, more precisely, Morning Metro. Here we are able to do the Metro CRC to get to the mainland. Once again, CRCs convert Cappy's vertical distance to horizontal distance, canceling his return and teleporting him to wherever you want to go. Of course, it's so much more complicated than that, but that's not the point of this video. This skips the entirety of Night Metro, and, by extension, the Sherm capture. By the way, if you're liking the video, be sure to like and subscribe, it helps me out a lot. Warping to the mainland, we can plant 2 seeds to turn into moons later. We can use this scooter to clip into this cage and grab this moon. We grab the shop moon and change the date forward. We can't do DSTA again since you can only set it up once per run, so here we just do it manually. We get one of the seeds, the trash moon, and talk to the lonely man. After the girder moon, we gamble for a moon. Then talk to Pauline and tune up the band. We enter Bullet Building and get both moons inside. We scale this building in order to get Girder Sandwich. We backtrack to get the second seed and the musician. Exiting the band hall, we scale it and jump up to Swaying in the Breeze. All to jump down to Captain Toad. Then we jump back up to the Cafe Moon. Then we finally enter People's Room, doing it in reverse to save time. Exiting through this pipe to wrong warp us. A benefit of Morning Metro. We grab the final moon and sneak in a moon clip. That's it for Metro, but there's no Odyssey here right now, so we take this painting to Lake, a kingdom we already unlocked, and is why we chose Wooded first. When you enter a painting you haven't unlocked yet, the game doesn't like it too much and locks the camera. Usually you'd warp to unlock it, but that's slow. So we just do a blind jump to the Rango Arena. and are forced to do the fight with this weird, messed up camera. The multi-moon sets the camera back to normal and we can do the rest of Lake. We grab the first 2 moons with minimal water contact, but since we can't capture fish, we just have to swim sometimes. Lastly, we get Dory and the timer moon. Moving on to Cloud, the fight is identical to any other run. First, we do this cool cloud boost, punch him 3 times and head to Lost. Lost Kingdom is identical to any percent, but 2P makes it cool, so I'll go over it. We boost up this tree and into the first moon, hitting it early with Cappy. Next, hitting the butterfly and getting these 2 propeller moons. After activating Klepto, we can use Cappy to hit this staircase and reveal a moon. Next is a trick called Reverse Trapedal. Essentially, giving Cappy to this guy, and while he charges up, we grab a moon, and right before he shoots, we get into position for him to hit this block. Next, we move Cappy towards this Trapedal and do Cage Triple. Lastly, we fall under the bridge and get our final moon. The first thing we do when we enter Night Metro is leave Night Metro. Once we enter Snow, we roll down to Captain Toad, and then enter Shiveria. We get a moon in this corner, then go shopping with our last bit of coins. Exiting, we come up here to this chest, and roll down to this moon and do a moon clip. We enter Rango Room and only get the secret moon. Next, we enter the Shards Room, getting all of them with Cappy. Jumping up to this chest moon, then the main moon. Then we enter the Blowy Joey Room. Again, we only get 1 moon in here. Next, we warp out and do Snowdram with a modified CDB tech. Now we globe and head to Seaside. Seaside is also very different from a normal run. Since we can't capture a fish, we do our best to stay out of the water completely. First, we enter the Rumble Room. Then get Ride the Jetstream, and then we jump up to the moon on the high cliff. Now we scale this wall, then the cage to get Captain Toad and the Story Moon. Next, we jump back here behind the canyon and get a moon. We roll where we can and get what the waves left behind. Now we're actually forced to enter the water and get 3 moons. That finishes Seaside and we can move on to Luncheon. We start Luncheon like any other, doing Salt Triple, or in this case Bounce, and grabbing the Salt Moon, followed by the Pillar Shadow. Now if you've kept up with 2P any percent, you may know of this reverse Luncheon route. You may think it's slow or not possible in min caps, but it's actually just as effective. Since all Spewer would do is unlock lava bubbles, which we couldn't use anyway. So first we jump over to this island, hitting this checkpoint to refill our health before grabbing the moon. We skip the Forks Room and jump straight up to Jutting Crag. Grabbing a turnip, we go towards town and Curry Splash both turnip 1 and 2. And while we wait for them to spawn, grab the Pillar Moon. After turnips, we backtrack to the Shards area, grabbing this checkpoint for later. In Shards, we do some of the coolest movement, combining Mario and Cappy to grab all of the shards. Now we warp to the checkpoint we got earlier, and use it to get Overlooking. Down into slots. After that, we move over to the Crate Moon. Next, we jump this huge gap with the help of these conveniently placed invisible blocks, which takes us to the Mountain Moon. After that, we enter the Magma Room, and even though there are lava bubbles in here, it can still be done captureless, and pretty fast too. But since we skipped the Forks Room, we have to get Spinning Athletics. We jump the gap using 2P and lava bounces, making it into the sub-area, getting both moons inside. Lastly, we warp to the Odyssey, get the timer challenge behind it, and globe to Ruined. Ruined is exactly as you'd expect. Go to the arena, getting our second capture of the run, and making sure not to die during the dragon fight. We grab the multi-moon, globe, and move on to the absolute gauntlet that is Bowser's Kingdom. Before we begin Bowser's, I'd like you to keep in mind that a normal route for this run would consist of doing one CRC to the 3rd island, another CRC to the 4th island, and a 3rd CRC to the inner wall checkpoint, all of these being shake to wins. Meaning to actually teleport Cappy, all you have to do is shake his controller. Now, even though those CRCs are good for most people, the world record does way harder and way faster CRCs. And the first one is right away. We start by rolling over to this roof, hitting these blocks and sending Cappy to the void. Now we have to set up our facing angle for the CRC. We used to do this by entering one player, lining up with first person, and then starting the CRC, but that entire process is slow, and can theoretically be skipped if you just YOLO it. We do that by using this layout on screen. We zoom into a certain part of the screen, and use the center of that, indicated by the line, to face Mario in the right direction. After that, we need to move Mario down the roof some, so we use this overlay to repeatedly crouch and lower him until the two frames match up. Once we're all lined up, we wait for Cappy to finish ground pounding and can actually do the CRC. All of the other CRCs this run were shake to wins, but this one is actually a double timed, meaning instead of shaking, you have to press Y on the few frames where Cappy would normally return. We do this because, unlike when you shake, Cappy actually remains animationless, meaning you can still move and use him. After we do the CRC and Cappy is above the Island 4 checkpoint, we're able to ground pound onto it. But we're not done yet. We move to this corner and use first person to line up another CRC, using the distance from the first, which happens to be the perfect amount needed to hit the third island's checkpoint, skipping an entire CRC and combining them into one. That was a really long explanation, I know, but it doesn't end just yet. We just get a little break. Then we roll toward the ogre, kill it, and get the story moon. And since we already got the other checkpoint, we just warp to it from here. Now we get to do a trick called marble shards. Essentially, we just let Cappy ground pound, setting up for the next CRC, while we do our next piece of movement. In this case, shards. This actually pace locks us, so it doesn't really matter how fast we grab the shards. So once we do that, we can't get the story moon just yet, so we have to do a Cappy-less jump up to the CRC spot, and this moon. Once again, we use a lineup to set up Mario's facing angle. This one's a little different, but follows the same idea. Using a part of the screen to align Mario, and then using an overlay to get his height right. Once we're lined up, we do our double time CRC and ground pound Cappy onto the Isle 6 checkpoint once again. But finally, this is the last CRC in the run. Now we warp to the checkpoint, fight Topper first specifically, then Harriet. We do Sar Bomba, a trick where we suspend a bomb in the air to hit her faster with. After the story moon, we actually have to roll over toward the ogre and do Pokino. A trick not used before this run, but is faster when combined with the 4 to 6 CRC. But as always, is much harder. But in this run, we effortlessly scale the wall from out of bounds, make it up, and finally come to the most famous part of this run, the nut jump. The nut jump is a combination of inputs with the nut in order to gain infinite height. In 3 captures, we use it to skip this wire capture. Basically, after getting the nut wet, for a reason no one knows, we can throw the nut mid-air, dive into it, and catch it, repeating this to gain infinite height. It's not as easy as it sounds though. The amount of time you have to dive into the nut and catch it is mere frames. Having to do a near frame-perfect trick up to 25 times without fail makes this the most brutal ending to any run by far. So after we wet the nut, we bring it up here and do a few nut jumps to make it up onto this roof. And bring it over to this checkpoint, then on top of this roof, as this puts us higher and closer and to be able to do fewer nut jumps. We do our nut jumps and make it up to Bowser's head, skipping the wire and grabbing a moon here too. Now we can jump around the roof and make it to the mech fight. Captureless mech strats are already fast, so we just do that here. Ending with Cappy hitting the last bubble. We grab the multi-moon to finish off Bowser's and head on to the final kingdom, Moon. We begin by rolling toward the chapel, stopping by these rocket flowers to speed up. But in 2P, we can use them to completely scale and skip the moon cave from the front. This skips the Sphinx altogether. We roll into the chapel, confront Bowser, hit him 3 times and defeat him. Here lies the final capture of the run, Bowser. And while we make our way through as Bowser, we need to make sure not to die, because if we do, the run is completely invalid, as the game counts it as capturing again. We go through the 2D section using 2P to skip some jumps, and break our way into pillars. We shoot the entire first pillar and some of the second, swiping away at the rest. Moving towards the third, we fire at it until we break it. The final pillar we just fire at it until it breaks, revealing the center where we swipe at this moon rock and enter the wire, finishing the 3 captures world record. This run is so complicated. This video probably doesn't do it justice, but just because it's the world record doesn't mean it can't be improved. Of course I cut out a lot of the mistakes to make it appear cleaner, but this run had a ton of mistakes, ranging from small mishaps in movement all over the place, losing quite a few seconds, to missing the nut jump one time. This lost over a minute. Along with strats I didn't even do in the run, this world record is still highly improvable. And I don't know if it'll be me, Redslay, or someone else to improve it, but I imagine this is far from the last world record we'll see in minimum captures.